Hi, I'm Charles. I own and direct Kaleidoscope Rock Academy and Kaleidoscope School of Music here in the Seattle area. And this is the concluding video for now of a series I've done on music notation for guitarists. So we've looked at a ton of different ways to write things down with the overarching themes of A, use the right tool for the job, no one notation is the right notation for everything, and B, empowerment, like, figure out how you want to write stuff down, and even if it's idiosyncratic, do it your way. Do whatever gets the information across to your future self or your bandmates or whoever your students. Whatever works, use it. So the last one I'm going to talk about, the last notation style, is actually something unique called chroma. Howard Roberts was a respected jazz guitarist and massively recorded studio musician who founded the school I went to in LA, GIT/Musicians Institute, and he published a pair of books probably about 30 years ago now called Chroma, and the idea was to teach especially younger students using like a form of color tab as opposed to using regular traditional notes or traditional tab. I had both these books when I started teaching. One of them disappeared along the way, but it doesn't really matter because it really was the methodology, not the books, that was the brilliant thing. So I want to give Howard, of course, credit for that. It's been one of the key things I've used my entire teaching career in getting younger students engaged. So the value for this one, I wouldn't say it has zero value for older musicians, but it's definitely very valuable if you are teaching your kids to play, or you're a guitar teacher, or you want a fresh way to look at things. So I'm going to explain it here, and then at the very end I'll mention how it's actually helped me still with some older students. So the concept with chroma approach is you just give every string a fakey color. So when I have kids in their first lesson and they're under the age of 9, I usually do this. So I'm going to say first, hey, let's pretend that the strings have colors, and we're just going to arbitrarily pick these colors Howard did. So these are the colors that Howard Roberts used. So first string, skinny string, is black. So I'm kind of writing this in chord frame fashion. Second string is pink. Third string is blue. Fourth string is red. So forth. We've got green. And then the heaviest string is yellow. Totally arbitrary, but that's what he used when he wrote these books. And I've got tons of music that I've written out by hand and saved over the years, so I got to stick to this color approach because I'm stuck with that particular designation of colors forever because of all the music I've amassed. The number of things that I've written out in chroma now vastly exceeds the length of the 2 original books where I first saw this used. Also want to give shout out to RMI as a school here in this general area in Bellevue, Washington, where Howard's son Jay, I believe, still uses chroma in certain classes. So I also appreciate the times I've talked to Jay and what his dad's methodology has done for me as a teacher. Thank you. One of the things about chroma, of course, is you're committed now, if you're writing things down this way, to either flipping colored pens in your digital space of the Microsoft Whiteboard, or physically flipping between 6 different colored pens, which has been kind of hilarious at times in lessons. But I not only have to transcribe music off of listening to it for younger kids, but I simultaneously have to figure out how to switch between 6 different pens to write it down. It can be kind of slow, but to me, the benefit, which I'll talk about, far outweighs the pain in the butt aspect. But if you write down a 0, it's actually an O for open. That's a 0 fret unfingered third string blue. So a lot of times with the kids, I'll write this little kind of fakey song here. It's NBC chimes. You write a red 0, a pink 0, and a blue 0. Whoops, that's not blue. Hold on. And that's the NBC chimes. Kids don't really need to know NBC, but they probably don't anymore, but it sounds kind of like a clock chime. And I always tell them, hey, it's the world's shortest song you've been hearing in your lesson for 5 minutes, and because you've learned about these string colors, you now can play this world's shortest song. To write down the fretted notes, you just write a number. So the number, I just wrote a black 1, 2, 3, and 4. The number is both the finger and the fret, so that means play a first fretted note on the black string, skinny string. This is what I call the Millipede Exercises, 1, 2, 3, 4, using all 4 fingers on the first string. So instead of using 6 lines to represent the strings, what we're doing is 6 colors. The numbers are pretty much the same. They first and foremost represent the fret number. But in the beginning of lessons, it's always in first position, so the fret number and the finger number are the same. The advantage to this methodology, just like tab, is that you can write down things that are way harder than what a kid would be ready to cognitively read and decode from regular scaff music. So if someone wants to play the Mandalorian theme or Star Wars or whatever, I can usually get them playing things that are more technically difficult and more complex in the first couple months of lessons than if I was using either a traditional music book and or traditional scaff notation. So I think it's pretty awesome that you can write down anything using chroma. And I think the advantage of not using regular tab is I think colors are A, fun, and B, I think kids can absorb, especially younger kids can absorb this information and reproduce it quicker because it's just one string of numbers just with different colors in the same line instead of navigating the up and down of a tab scaff. So if you get out of the first position, you have to explain to the student that the number actually doesn't mean their finger anymore. It just means what fret it is, because there are a lot of melodies that leave the first position and move up higher. If you want to communicate two notes at the same time, what I do is I write like a black one and a pink one on top of each other, and I just draw a box around them. So that's not something Howard explained, something I made up, but that shows they're simultaneous. So that means play those two notes at the same time. So you can write chord scale using this as well. The advantage and the disadvantage of chroma are kind of twin. The advantage is you can teach kids to play kind of anything that's not too fast right away because they can understand the system of how to find those notes right away. The double-edged sword to that is then they get really used to using chroma, and if you say, hey, it's time to start learning about something else, another way to write stuff, there can be some resistance. Some kids transition really easily with me. Some of them get kind of stuck on chroma and they're really resistant. I still think that's a worthy danger because the attraction to getting like everyone engaged in playing guitar quickly and getting hooked on that is worth the risk. You know, I think if you insist on doing everything a real traditional way, you're going to lose a larger percentage of those students. And if they came to guitar to play guitar and enjoy guitar, I want to maximize the chance that they're going to stick with that. To me, that investment is more important than protocol, I guess you could say. But the way that I get people to move on is then I will teach them how to play scales, and I'm going to write one here, and I will like show them the C major scale, and I will simultaneously write it in letters, colored letters, and colored numbers. So I'm starting to get them to realize that they can find this using letter names as long as the colors are still present. So we transition from the chroma colored tab to the chroma colored letters. That's like the first step. Hopefully by the time someone's done less than 6 or 7 months, I'm writing down everything in the open position using colored letters. And then from there you start moving towards actual reading using a book like Phase 1 Basic Guitar by the Berklee College Press. And I can actually draw some of my chroma stuff into that book and label things with colors to kind of help them make that transition to actually reading music. One thing that's kind of nifty is I've now taught long enough that I've had kids start at like age 6, 7, or 8, do chroma with me, and then be in my rock band program when they're teenagers. And at that point, they've learned how to read power chords, they've learned how to read rock charts, a lot of times they know how to read music decently. But every so often there's something that comes up in a really tough rock chart, something in a different tuning or a drop key tuning or something like that, where I can go back to using, especially for the lower strings, the green and yellow colors and numbers, and I can kind of go back to that subconscious reservoir of chroma that the kids got in the back of their mind and from the early days with me. I can still use that this methodology to help them understand something much later on. Again, it's that creative interplay between charting methods, so like I might be mostly using power chord names and chord names with them, but I can still tap back into the chroma notation form to kind of just make something clear to them that they're struggling with. So it's because it's so obvious and because it's so organic with the colors and numbers, it's something that you can always regress to for a moment to get the job done. If you are working with younger students, I definitely would encourage you to check this out. As I've said before in the series, not a big fan of the cookie cutter Ernie Ball, Mel Bay notation books, partly because there's so much emphasis in a lot of them on traditional scaff notation, especially at the first fret where it's not always the most useful, really. There's so much usage of kind of scale public domain songs where using chroma you can like pull in movie themes, TV themes, video game music that's a lot more current, and write down things that wouldn't really fit the the framework of those kind of beginner books. I found that I do agree with Howard Roberts' assertion that most kids under 10, especially in the beginning, don't really relate to chords. So if there's a chord based, like a chord frame based method book that's folksy, that might not be the best thing either for like a 7-year-old. A lot of times they get really jazzed about playing single note melodies they recognize, and that's really how their brains are more wired at that age. And I found that, no two kids are alike, but I found that generally to be true, that I agree with him on that. So with Chroma, we kind of wrap all this up. If you want to see how I've used all the different forms of notation, go back and check out all 8 of the prior videos. I really appreciate you visiting this channel, and if you like this type of thing, please subscribe and check out some of the other videos. Thanks for watching.